Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a story that literally redefines the absolute limits of human endurance. We're going to unpack the completely terrifying and honestly awe-inspiring journey of a wildlife photographer named Arav. His search for a rare bird turned into a 30-day, bare-knuckle fight for his life in one of the absolute most unforgiving environments on Earth. We'll break down exactly how he survived this green hell, day by agonizing day.
So let's set the scene right away. Look at those words. The Amazon. Venomous snakes, deadly insects, and endless miles of wilderness where survival is nearly impossible. That's not an exaggeration, it's a grim reality. In some parts, the canopy is so ridiculously thick that sunlight barely even reaches the ground. Now imagine being a photographer, totally in your element, hanging out with your documentary crew, and then suddenly stepping right into this dense, unforgiving jungle completely alone. The margin for error here? Absolutely zero.
Which brings us to part 1, Lost in the Green Hell.
Seriously, what do you do when every single direction looks exactly the same? Put yourself in his shoes for just a second. Towering trees surround you. Thick, tangled vines totally block your view. You shout for your team, but you're just met with total deafening silence. You shout again, nothing. See, everything was going perfectly to plan until Arav spotted something extraordinary, a really rare and beautiful bird. He quietly followed it, laser-focused on getting that perfect photograph, and he just didn't realize how far he was walking. He got his shot, turned around, and realized his documentary team was completely gone. At first, he tried to stay calm, walking in different directions, just trying to find a recognizable landmark, but every single path just led to more trees and more confusion.
And then, as evening approaches, the jungle transforms. The ambient sounds grow louder, and unseen creatures start moving through the darkness. Something screamed in the distance. Just looking at those stark words on screen, imagine actually hearing that primal scream when you're out there, entirely alone and completely vulnerable.
Then, branches cracked nearby. Visualize his sheer panic right then, hearing branches snap right next to you in the pitch black. Arav blindly gathered whatever large leaves and broken branches he could find to throw together a tiny makeshift shelter. It's a terrifying reality. He barely slept a wink that first night, absolutely terrified that every single rustle was a predator inching closer and closer.
Section 2. The Rules of Sustenance.
Because surviving that first night, that was literally just the beginning. The energy bars he had in his backpack only lasted 2 days, so by the third day, this agonizing problem of finding safe food in a jungle completely loaded with poison became a literal matter of life and death. While the Amazon is absolutely packed with fruit, just one mistake with an unknown poisonous plant could kill him on the spot. But to avoid a fatal error, Arav did something brilliant. He carefully observed the monkeys living high up in the trees. Whenever he saw them eating a certain fruit, he'd go out and exclusively collect and eat that exact same fruit. It wasn't a 5-star feast by any means, but it definitely kept him alive.
But, finding water was actually even harder. Several days later, he finally stumbled upon a river. Overjoyed, he ran right up to it, but stopped dead in his tracks when he saw a dead animal floating near the shore. Drinking contaminated water in the jungle, yeah, that's a death sentence. So, he had to rely on this incredibly crude but vital filtration process. Step 1, he used pieces of his own shirt to catch the big debris. Step 2, sand for fine filtration. And Step 3, charcoal from his campfire to purify it. Let me tell you, it probably tasted absolutely terrible, but again, it kept him breathing.
Moving on to Section 3. Predators in the Shadows.
Every single day out there became this grueling milestone of severe physical and mental attrition. Looking at this timeline, by day 7, while he was just gathering firewood, he accidentally stepped way too close to a hidden, highly venomous snake. It hissed and launched right at him, its fangs missing his leg by mere inches as he jumped back. His heart must have been pounding out of his chest, knowing just one bite would have ended the whole shebang. Every day was a battle like this. Swarms of mosquitoes, relentless heavy rain, sharp branches constantly cutting up his skin. And then came the most terrifying night of all. Arav was sitting by his small fire when he saw 2 glowing eyes staring right at him from the darkness. A jaguar, one of the absolute deadliest predators in the entire Amazon, just stepping silently through the shadows. Arav reacted purely on instinct. He grabbed a burning branch from the fire, waved it frantically, and just screamed at the top of his lungs. After several agonizingly long seconds, the jaguar finally vanished back into the dark, and Arav literally just collapsed to his knees in relief.
Part 4. The Mind Games.
See, this story isn't just about fighting off jaguars or dodging snakes. After 10 days of extreme isolation, pure exhaustion, and constant physical pain,
the jungle really began playing vicious tricks on his mind. The psychological toll was just immense. He actually started hearing voices calling his name. He even hallucinated his own family standing right there in the trees, only for them to instantly vanish back into the jungle foliage whenever he desperately run toward them.
So, to fight off this rapid mental decay, he developed a system. 30. That is the total number of days he ultimately survived, and he tracked it by carving a deep mark into a tree trunk every single evening. One mark for each day survived. It gave him something tangible to hold on to, just one more victory against the jungle.
Which brings us to Section 5, the breaking point. Just as his severely malnourished body was really failing him and his clothes were hanging loosely off his weakened frame, the jungle decided to hit him with a massive, devastating blow. Day 20. A violently powerful storm strikes the rainforest. We're talking fierce winds ripping right through the canopy and rain pouring down in sheets for hours. His makeshift shelter completely collapsed, and a lot of his remaining precious equipment simply washed away. By morning, he literally had almost nothing left. This was the exact edge where, honestly, most people would have just thrown in the towel and surrendered.
Section 6. The power of refusal.
But here's the crucial point. Arav didn't quit. Even with basically nothing left, he rebuilt his shelter, he managed to restart his fire, he just kept moving forward because he knew with absolute certainty that giving up simply meant dying. And then finally we reached day 29. While he was resting, he heard this faint distant sound. Now at first, he totally thought it was just another cruel hallucination, but the sound kept growing louder. A rescue helicopter! Arav immediately scrambled, gathering whatever dry wood he could find to make a massive, incredibly smoky fire. He waved his arms excitedly as the helicopter actually appeared in the sky, seeming to fly directly toward his little clearing.
But then imagine the absolute soul-crushing devastation of this single moment. As the words here say, he watched in horror as it disappeared into the distance. His last hope was gone. The helicopter just flew right past. He collapsed to the ground, completely and utterly crushed.
But wait, hours later, just as the sun was starting to set, that glorious, thumping sound returned. This time, the rescue team had finally spotted his thick smoke signal. The aircraft descended, the rescuers rushed out toward him, and his incredibly long 30-day nightmare was finally over.
When he was finally airlifted to the hospital, the doctors were absolutely floored that he was even alive. He was so severely dehydrated and malnourished, most people wouldn't have survived even a fraction of what he went through. Today, Arav still vividly remembers the deep psychological ailments that constantly tested him. The endless darkness, the crippling hunger, the suffocating fear, and just the profound overarching loneliness.
So what's the ultimate takeaway from this explainer? Well, it's that in the absolute depths of the Amazon, survival isn't just about physical strength. Not at all. It is entirely about refusing to give up when every single thing around you says you should. It's that raw, stubborn determination that ultimately saved Arav's life. So I want to leave you with this final thought. If you ever found yourself completely alone in the green hell, would you have the determination to survive? Thanks so much for joining me today to unpack this incredible story of human resilience.